Hey everybody, long time no see. I have been in the process of moving into my new home, hence the new background, but that will be for another video because today I am reviewing Butterfly Pit Crew by Shawn Bitz, who is a local author here in South Dakota where I am from. And my mom actually recommended this book to me because it is a book written by somebody that she knows personally. And I had really high expectations for the story because my mother is strictly a nonfiction book reader, and this is a work of fiction. And so I was shocked to hear that she had actually read a fiction story. I did give this book a 4 out of 5 star rating on my Goodreads, and as the review continues, I will tell you why. So to hopefully give you a short overview of what the story is about, it's very much a character piece. We follow the point of view of Christopher, our protagonist, who has recently lost his very best friend, Dursk. And it really is just a collection of the things that happened between them personally, between them as friends, their drug and alcohol problems. And I really did enjoy reading a book that was literally just about characters. It wasn't about them going on some quest or adventure or the whole world coming to an end. It really just was about people. And I, as a reader, really enjoyed that. Now, to give you some kind of background on the characters, Christopher suffers from a lot of anxiety. He has a lot of self-doubt, doubt in the world. He is really coy and shy, and he doesn't really live life to the fullest, whereas Dursk is very full throttle with life. He doesn't give a shit what people think about him. It seems like when anything really bad happens to him, it just kind of slides off his shoulders. He's a ladies' man. He is just the complete polar opposite of Christopher, and Christopher just idolizes him. Dursk is his best friend. It's the only person in the world he just really loves. Now, the one thing that was really strange for me was the writing style seemed very much like someone was journaling. Like Christopher sat down and would start writing about something, and as he was writing, he would remember a different story. So I felt like it skipped around a lot. It wasn't very fluid, which I'm used to. I'm used to stories really having like the time period of this happened, and it's all in sequence. Whereas this one, I felt like it jumped around a lot. Now, there were points in the story where in the chapters he would have like a bold heading, and so you knew like the next few chapters were going to be about this certain subject. But I felt like after that subject was done and he would move on, sometimes we would backtrack and he would go back to even that subject later on or something even way before that happened. And that was kind of strange to me because, like I said, I usually read books that are very sequenced and fluid. It wasn't necessarily a horrible thing, but it really did kind of pull me out of the story. It wasn't that it was hard to follow what was going on, but I just had wished it was really in sequence of events, not that it jumped around so much. But that's not really a big deal. Now, I really honestly didn't get really engrossed into the story until about 100 pages in. There is a section where it talks about Dursk, his girlfriend Rose, and Christopher, and how they became like the Three Musketeers, three against the world. And I really related to this because a few years back, my friend Katrina and Jamie and I were in a kind of similar situation. We didn't have such a crazy adventure as these three did because, like I said, this book really revolves around drug and alcohol problems, and they did way crazier things than I think my friends and I would ever do. But I really related to that because sometimes in situations like this, there's kind of blurred lines, and there's just a point in your life when you're young where you just kind of say, fuck it, and you do some crazy ass shit. And I really related to that particular point. One thing that I absolutely loved about the story was the fact that it really showed how friendships are not perfect. Dursk and Christopher argued, and they didn't agree, and they were completely different people, and I liked that the author showed that, because I feel like in a lot of books I read, which is majorly, is that even a word? We're making it a word. They're very generic, and they seem very fairy tale-like and just too perfect, and that's not really how friendships work. Friendships are complicated, and you fight and you disagree, and sometimes you think your friendship is over. But true friendship, you always find a way to reconcile and come back from that. And I really did enjoy reading a book that showed kind of the ugly, gritty side of friendship. Now, another thing that's really kind of prevalent in the story is religion. It's not in your face, it's not preachy whatsoever, but it does play a part in Christopher's story. And I loved the fact that he battled with his religion, because I think most people who are religious do, no matter what you believe in. I think there's always a time where you doubt and feel like, what's the point? So I really liked that they showed that. And also I liked the fact there was a point in the story where Christopher was like at an all-time low. And he had just like this epiphany that God's relationship with you is personal. It's not biblical. It's not an organized religion type of relationship. It's what happens between you and him. And I've always been a firm believer in that. I have always felt like my relationship with God is between me and him, nobody else. And it doesn't matter what anyone says. I just know that it's personal. And I feel like that's the same with most people. The only other thing that really kind of threw me in this story was I really thought this was going to be a romance novel between Christopher and Dursk. The way that Christopher describes how much he loves Durst and needs him in his life and loves him and just couldn't survive without him, the way that I interpreted the story was that Christopher was falling in love with Durst, and maybe Durst wasn't going to feel the same way or something. And about 60 pages in, it does clarify that, no, I'm not in love with Durst, I just love him. But the fact that he had to clarify kind of made me think, well, then that you're writing as he almost is in love with his best friend. There's a fly flying around me, sorry. But that just kind of threw me, because literally almost the whole book I was like, oh, Christopher's going to fall in love with Durst because of all the things Durst has done for him, and how Durst always says how he can see Christopher and wish Christopher could see himself, in Durst's eyes and all this stuff. And it wasn't the case. They really just were friends. So that kind of threw me. And I really can't relate to any of the characters because I've never had experiences like this. I've never been an alcoholic or done hard drugs or anything like that. I have smoked some pot, which is in this story. Sorry, Mom, if you're watching. I have tried pot before, and, I have drank. And like I said, my friend Katrina and Jamie and I, few years ago, we were just partying all the time, drinking, just kind of going, woo, having our young days. And it just wasn't to this extreme, but I still could relate for the most part. Now, this does take place in like the 70s and 80s, so I really couldn't relate to maybe some of the cultural things that were going on. But, I mean, it's a great character story, and it's different from anything I've ever read, because I do feel like most of what I read, it's very much either romance or like dystopian or, an adventure story. So I liked sitting down and just reading about people. I think that's really interesting. And he showed a really ugly side and true side to people. We are not perfect. We do stupid shit. We make mistakes. We party. We have fun. Obviously, there's some extremes in here I've never done, or most of you probably haven't. But it's really, really interesting. And like I said, I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. There were a few issues for me personally, but the story itself was really great. After about 100 pages, I was totally engrossed in the story. I read this in one day. It probably took me like 5-6 hours or so. And I really, really enjoyed it. And the fact that he's a local author just gives me hope, because I myself want to become an author, and I really do want to support local authors. I'm not exactly sure how you can purchase this book. I didn't see a website or anything, but I know that this is on Goodreads, and I'm sure that if you go on Goodreads, there's a way you can order the book and it tells you. I just really, really enjoyed this book, and it was nice to pick up something that wasn't the norm. And the fact that it was done by a local author would just made it that much cooler, because I live in the area that this story is based on. So he would talk about a place, and I was like, oh yeah, I've been there. Oh yeah, I know that place. So that was really, really cool. So if you're looking for something that's more of a character piece, just about people and life and just something out of the norm, I definitely recommend this to you. Like I said, 4 out of 5 stars. I hope you enjoyed this review, and I will catch you guys in my next one.